Okay, morning everyone. It's 1 minute past 11, so I suggest we get started. I can see people are still joining though, which is great. Welcome to this Supply Chain Sustainability School Lunch and Learn on delivering social value and developing a pipeline of talent by working with schools and colleges. I'm EJ Allen. I'm a consultant at Action Sustainability, which is the delivery partner that sits behind the school. I'm also sector manager for the construction and homes markets within the school. So I'm going to be facilitating today's session. However, James is our expert for today and the reason you're all here. So before we go any further, just a little bit of housekeeping. Because of the numbers today, I think we're expecting, I think we had about 130 people booked on. Because of the size of the numbers, what we've done is we've turned off your cameras, we've turned off your microphones. So we've kind of taken control of that. So if you have any questions throughout the session, what we'd like you to do is to use the Q&A function. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's some kind of speech bubbles where it says Q&A. So if you click on that and you can put forward your questions for James using that. And then what we'll do is at the end of the presentation, we'll then have some time for Q&A. So yeah, please do get involved and submit your questions as we go through. The session will be interactive in that we've got some polls as we go through, just to get your insights and engagement. So many of you familiar with the school will be very familiar with Mentimeter, which is the platform that we use. You don't need to download any apps, it's really simple, and we'll give you some instructions on how to do that. But for now, maybe leave your phone on so that you can use your phone for those polls. Lastly, you don't need to worry about taking notes. We're going to be circulating the slides from today and a recording of the session afterwards. So you can just sit back and listen, and then we'll share everything with you afterwards. So a little bit of background before handing over to James. I'm sure you're all fairly familiar with that statistic from the Construction Leadership Council Skills Plan of the industry needing more than, I think it's 217,000 extra workers by 2025. Just to maintain and deliver the UK's build pipeline. And that doesn't take into account that huge challenge around, I suppose, retaining existing workforce as well. So the school and its partners, of which there are nearly 200 now, recognise that without a sustainable workforce or sources of labour, the industry just can't function. So people really are our greatest asset. So within the school, we look at various topics linked to this, such as how we attract talent, the recruitment process, how do we ensure that our recruitment processes are inclusive and effective, and also that all important piece around retention. However, today is very much about the attraction piece and around the practicalities, the how of engaging with schools and colleges to help develop that pipeline of talent, and also looking at how this could, how we deliver social value and help us to meet or deliver client requirements around things like PPN 0620, the government social value model. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to James now. We'll have time for Q&A at the end, like I said, and then I will finish with just signposting to some resources and some updates within the school that link to some of the things we're going to be talking about today. So James, over to you.
Thanks, EJ.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Okay, thanks, EJ. I think you were just going through the Mentimeter thing there, weren't you?
I'll do that in a minute.
With it, great. So yes, I'm James Innes from the Careers and Enterprise Company. I am a business partnerships senior manager. I look after work with sector bodies. So great to be here and to have you all join. The session today, really, I want to go through the Careers and Enterprise Company and what our network is, our network of careers hubs, how this will help you to access schools and colleges across England, how employers like yourselves can leverage that network to make life easier in terms of engaging around that attraction piece and in delivering social value commitments. Many of you may have heard of the Gatsby benchmarks, so I'll be speaking a bit about those and the resources that exist to support you in your engagement with schools and colleges. And then how that relates to common social value themes as well. And as EJ says, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So just as a kick-off and to understand who's on the call, it would be great if you could just enter in the Mentimeter poll how you would best describe your company's current engagement with schools and colleges. But first, I think we're going to explain how Mentimeter works.
Yes, so if you grab your phone or if you have a new browser, just go to menti.com, and once you're in, it will prompt you for a code. So you just put in the code that you can see there, which is 69124187. It's kind of stating the obvious, but I've been guilty of doing it in the past. Don't disconnect from the webinar when you do that. If you didn't note down the code or the website, then just look at the top of the screen that's being shared and you can see it's still there. It says menti.com and you've got the code there. If anyone's struggling, just use the chat and Rosie can help.
Okay. That's encouraging to see. I think most people have entered a score. So there's lots of people who are doing little bits and pieces, and really encouraging to see people building in as much as possible. And there's a small number of you that aren't currently doing anything with schools and colleges, and hopefully across the piece you'll all find it helpful in terms of leveraging our network to be able to do that. So I'm just going to share a few slides with you now. So just taking you through a little bit of a background of the Careers and Enterprise Company and why we exist.
James, I can't see your slides. I don't know if it's just me, but.
Sorry, let me try.
This is looking promising.
Great.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, EJ. So yeah, for those that haven't heard of the Careers and Enterprise Company, we were set up by government back in 2015, really, and the idea really was to make it easier for employers to connect with schools and colleges to raise the quality of careers education. We want to ensure that regardless of their background, that every young person can find their best next step. And I think underpinning everything we do, there are some core assumptions around engagement with education and around young people's response to careers education. And that is that at the moment, and particularly in the post-lockdown world, that young people face uncertainty. So the economy's changed and there's lots of confusing messaging, but also there's real opportunity out there. The job market's evolving rapidly, all sorts of emerging industries and specialisms, and it's really incumbent upon us to be able to inspire young people to understand what they are and how to get there and to find those opportunities. We know that difficulties in terms of careers education and seeing what's out there, they're not evenly felt everywhere. So even, you know, across one county, there'll be differences in terms of the quality of careers education that a young person receives. And that's not to mention remote areas where there's not so many employers to engage with. And so we need to make sure that we're giving everyone that same opportunity. We know that the best next step is not the same for every young person. So it's not all about going to university. Us being able to promote technical routes, apprenticeships, T-levels, you know, other directions of travel, other pathways is really important. We know that, you know, what we experience as a young person influences what we go on to do. So if, you know, you're from an environment where there's generational unemployment, or perhaps, you know, everybody within your immediate environment has done the same profession, we're about broadening those horizons, inspiring young people to find out more about different areas they may not have previously thought about. But most importantly, we know that the college and the school is the unit of change, essentially, that, you know, we channel everything through the school and college. So moving into the next session, just think about your own experience of careers education. So when you were at school, drop one or two words into the word cloud as to how you describe the careers guidance. Keep it clean. It'll be really interesting to see the thoughts on the call about your own experiences of careers guidance that you received when you were at school. Okay, that's interesting, and some themes that pop up there around demotivating, university focused, that I've kind of touched on before. Our real mission is to inspire and to show the breadth of opportunities that exist out there. That's great, thank you. So I don't know if my screen's still sharing now.
You'll have to reshare, James.
Sorry. Yeah, so for me personally, if it was anything, if your experience was anything like mine.
Sorry, James. Sorry, you're still in the you're not in presenter view.
Oh, I apologise. So is that not sharing now, AJ?
No. Do you want me to share? Do you want me to share mine instead?
Yeah,
will that help?
Mind,
okay. Bear with us. No worries.
That's the spot.
Okay.
Thank you, and apologies for that technical wizardry not working for me. So yeah, looking at that word cloud, it's so sort of disappointing that the experiences that so many of us had when we were going through careers education. I think I can remember two activities. Number one was a tour of sort of the local supermarket where we got to see the goods receiver bid and a tour of the shop floor, which was a great insight into that sector. But then also a questionnaire after that, which I think I can remember, the question of the 15-year-old me, do you enjoy being outdoors? Absolutely. But it kind of closed off all of the indoor occupations, and that was all that surfaced for me. So patchy at best, I think I would describe my careers education. It seems from that others sort of feel the same way. And I think really what we're trying to do as an organisation is to really shift the dial around careers education, to get that breadth, to support schools and colleges to be able to deliver excellence is absolutely key. Challenging and supporting employers to engage with real purpose. So we're in the process of developing a set of standards for employers to help guide you to understand, what good looks like in terms of careers education. It's all very well sending your teams out to work with schools, but we need to know that it's quality, don't we? I'm sure, everybody wants to make sure that you're making your mark, you're showing your organisation and sector in the best light and developing that pipeline and delivering upon your commitments. And we really need to make sure, 21st century careers education needs to include everybody. We need to remove barriers to engaging, to going on workplace visits, to engaging with employers. So the next slide is around, you would have heard me mention it, the Gatsby benchmarks, and I'm sure those of you It signifies that you're doing bits around education at the moment. Gatsby benchmarks underpin really the careers strategy in this country and everything that we do, really. They are internationally recognised standards of best practice. Those that are probably of most relevance as an employer. The first piece, benchmark number one, a stable careers programme. So that's the leadership of a school or college taking a view of every year group and making sure that they're getting the interventions with employers that the students need in order to have that breadth of experience and to make those informed choices at those key decision points. There's then benchmark number 4, so linking to curriculum learning. So particularly post lockdown, there were all sorts of challenges around getting students out and getting people from business into schools. Embedding curriculum learning, embedding careers within curriculum learning has become really important, and it really helps subject teachers with those tricky areas of the curriculum to teach, to really bring it to life. So an example that we work with Pinewood Studios, who to support with a maths and physics curriculum, I think as well. They gave some really good examples around, like, you know, if we need James Bond to be attacked by sharks, how much water do we need in the shark tank to make that an effective scene, and those sorts of bits. So bringing maths into real life. Benchmarks 5 and 6, absolutely key. So encounters with employers and employees. Those are those careers talks, those assemblies talks, the mock interviews, the CV workshops. Number 6, experiences of workplaces. So we work with Build UK every year on their Open Doors programme, getting young people, parents and teachers out onto site to not just see sort of the bricks and mortar of things, but everything that goes into the industry, all of the opportunities that exist, the marketing, the sales, everything that goes in to a project and into the sector. So that's the what and the why. The next slide will show us kind of how we do it, what our network looks like. So we speak about a network of coordination that we have across England. We've got 250 enterprise coordinators around the country. They each work with around 20 schools and colleges. Their role is to really understand where those schools and colleges are on careers. So they will work with the senior leadership team of the school or college, with the careers leader, to help them measure themselves against those Gatsby benchmarks to understand where the gaps are. They'll bring in a volunteer from business, what we call an enterprise advisor. So that's someone from business with a strategic mindset. I'm sure some of you on the call will be acting as enterprise advisors. And they will, along with the careers leader and the senior leadership team, they'll look at that careers programme, provide some challenge, provide some support in terms of bringing their own network in to support careers activities, and they'll help move the school along in its journey in partnership with those enterprise coordinators. The careers leaders are a really important audience for us and for a lot of the sector bodies that I work with in terms of influencing the careers programme. They're not delivering all the activities, but they're coordinating across a school or college. So a lot of our communications go out to careers leaders, but we're also responsible for their CPD and their development in role. So across England, we work with 89% of schools and colleges. That includes special schools and pupil referral units as well. And the next slide will talk about careers hubs. So geographically, and this sits within the government's Skills for Jobs white paper, we were charged with establishing careers hubs across England. The ambition is that there are careers hubs everywhere, and we're fast approaching that. What careers hubs are, and they have a hub lead that we employ, they are a collaboration between business, schools and colleges and other stakeholders from the skills and education sector. They work on geographically focused projects. So it may be that they'll look at schools against the Gatsby benchmarks and see that there aren't enough work experience placements taking place. So together, business will corral and pull a project together to drive the number of work experience placements that are taking place. They'll take a strategic view of looking at the local skills plans and making sure that there's enough within the careers system to promote those sectors and those jobs and those skills that are going to be required when this generation of young people leaves schools. So, helping with attraction to those growth sectors and those in-demand jobs. And so from your perspective, those on the call, your careers hub, whether you're at the planning stage of a project or whether it's activation and starting to deliver, speaking to your local careers hub and careers hub lead, that's where you get the real intelligence around where you should be channeling your efforts locally and getting involved with schools and colleges. So moving on to the next question is just thinking about your priorities and why you've joined the call today, really. What are your priorities? If you could rank these 6 items, what are your priorities when you consider why you wish to engage schools and colleges? It'll be really interesting to know, those on the call, what your priorities are and what's really driving your interest. Okay, that's brilliant, thank you, and really interesting. We've obviously seen as an organisation since PPN 0620 came out that we're being asked a lot more about social value and how we can support with delivery of social value on contracts. So it's very interesting to see that's the first and number 1 on there, and then of course that talent pipeline consideration is huge. Great, thank you, everyone. So I'll delve a little bit on the next slide off that one. Thanks, EJ. On social value and how engaging with education through the Careers and Enterprise Company can support you on that. So if you wouldn't mind moving on to the next slide, EJ, that's great. Thank you. Looking at the government's priority themes around social value, there's 3 that really sort of stand out in terms of relationship to education. So there's the COVID-19 recovery, tackling economic inequality, and equal opportunity. As I've sort of said to you, when you're looking at whether developing at bid stage, developing your social value responses, or at the activation point, your careers hub leads and your enterprise coordinators, so those enterprise coordinators working with sort of 20 schools locally, that's your source of information. So you might have priorities around engaging more diverse students and building a diverse talent pipeline. You might want to be reaching harder to help students in pupil referral units. You might have all sorts of different measures that you're looking at. It's those enterprise coordinators and careers hub leaders that can tell you, A, what the local challenges are around careers education and around jobs and skills, and B, can make those introductions and help you shape your programs and your interventions. So they really are key to helping you activate your social value commitments. The sorts of, I suppose, measures that come out, so it'll be things like the number of staff hours that are spent on school and college visits, both delivering careers talks or those CV workshops, interview skill sessions, those sorts of bits. The number of individual events that you run, so the number of those workshops you run, and then how many students you've reached when you've been delivering those activities. You might also be asked about, when you're getting students out on site, so the number of site visits that you've run, the number of students that have been involved in those, and the number of teachers, and sort of the number of activities that you've run. Increasingly, an area of focus for us actually is looking at, can we get more teachers out doing their own version of work experience? Our CEO calls them externships, but how can we engage teachers more with a view to being able to talk more knowledgeably about what actually is happening in the job market, and being able to embed more careers learning within their own lesson plans and their own teaching. So next slide is really the sort of 3 primary ways to be involved with the Careers and Enterprise Company and our work. And hopefully you've got from what I've just said that there are variations through the careers hubs. It's important to understand the local needs, but these are the 3 key areas really that we speak about. Number 1 is to engage directly with young people. So those ad hoc, potentially one-off, we'd hope it's more interventions where you're either running an activity within a school, or students are coming out to you and are coming out on site. We call that Give an Hour. And when these slides are circulated afterwards, there are links to the website and where to find out more. You can become an enterprise advisor. So I spoke about how our enterprise coordinators work with schools and colleges. The enterprise advisors, that volunteer from business that comes and brings that element of challenge that supports with the development of the careers program by providing advice and guidance, but also, where they can, brings their own network in to be able to run careers activities, to be able to provide that breadth of coverage for the careers program. Then the third bit is those businesses involved in our careers hubs that are really driving activity, those that are taking a strategic view around skills, are leading on projects, are bringing other local employers into the mix to become active in engaging with schools and colleges. They're called our cornerstone employers. And we ask that those that are really committed around careers education consider becoming a cornerstone employer in their local careers hub. So there's those 3 considerations, and it may be around where your office footprint is, so where you've got permanent bases. It might be a really long-term project where you're looking to support schools and colleges locally, and whether it is taking a social value view, a talent attraction view, or another driver, you can look at the interventions that will work best. And brilliant, thank you. And across all of this, for those of you that are new to working with schools and colleges, we've got a number of resources, and a number of them sit within the supply chain schools own resource section, but we have a resource directory. We have regular webinars around things like working with schools for students with special educational needs and disabilities. We've had a lot of interest in sustainability, green jobs, green economy, which has got great engagement from your sector. So speaking about that, and how best to engage schools and colleges around the green agenda and sustainability, net zero. We have employer guides around the world of work experience. Has changed a little bit because not everyone's in the office all the time. So how to run blended work experience programs where there's some time on site, but there's some time remote as well. And sort of underpinning that as well as our relationships with sector bodies. So CITB, Home Builders Federation, Build UK. So we support with the Go Construct programme with getting STEM ambassadors into our network. And as I mentioned, with Open Doors as well. So we are the partner that promotes Open Doors to schools and colleges. I believe that the registration for sites for next year goes online in October, and that Open Doors Week itself will take place in March 2023 for those that are interested in finding out more about that. So that's an overview of our network and the Careers and Enterprise Company, and I'll open up to any questions.
Thank you, James. Sorry, I'm just sorting out. My video's back. Sorry, thought I was having technical issues then. Right, so let me have a look into the, thanks, James, that was great. I'm just going to have a look at the Q&A that have come in to see what's, okay, so we've had somebody ask the question, is the contractor able to communicate directly with schools close to the project site, or should the contractor seek advice from the City Council or other official to find out which is that prioritisation piece, which schools' needs are prioritised before contacting schools? What's the kind of, in its simplest format, I suppose, the correct procedure in that scenario?
So my advice would be to reach out to the Careers Hub locally. So that's where the relationships are held with the schools and colleges, and then they've got that the links in to be able to channel you to the right school or college. And if it's just about proximity, they'll be able to talk about the priorities for that school and college and how to shape the approach. But the likelihood is that they'll get better traction in terms of picking up the phone to the school and be able to broker a relationship.
And can people find that directly on if they go to your website, can they do a kind of simple search?
Absolutely. There's a list of careers hubs and you'll be able to find the one closest.
Okay, great. Thank you. So hopefully that answers that question. A question just coming from Emily Law. Do the careers hubs and STEM hubs offer the same information? Do they work together?
Yeah, you'll be pleased, Emily, to know that they do. So there's not a duplication thing, which is always the fear in this space. So yes, we work with STEM Learning who run the STEM hubs. We promote each other's offers essentially through our networks, and any activity that one of the others running will do in tandem.
Okay, great. Alignment, that's always good. Susanna has a question about, they're considering a mentoring scheme with local schools to build relationships with students rather than that just kind of ad hoc dropping in occasionally. Yeah. Is that something that you can help with?
Absolutely. I would speak to the Careers Hub. I don't know, Susanna, whether you've got schools in mind, but if you don't, then they could help steer to those that will be most receptive. But certainly they'll be able to talk about what's worked before and how to get something like that off the ground.
Okay, great. And Lynn has said, we have a STEM ambassador and we'd like to work with local schools. How do we do this?
Great. I mean, I would have thought that they would be picked up through the STEM platform and matched through that. If they haven't been, then have them reach out to their Careers Hub and they'll be able to connect them in.
James, I'm just thinking for people who aren't familiar with the STEM platform, I know it's not, but it's linked to what you do. Are you able to just explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you my best overview. So the construction industries ambassador program has been taken up by STEM Learning and their STEM ambassadors. It's sort of the portal for those from the industry that are interested in engaging with schools and colleges. So I think you can access it through the Go Construct website. I think there's a page dedicated to becoming a STEM ambassador. It'll provide information, videos, and sort of a little bit of onboarding around how to do that. I think the idea then is that they're then brokered into schools and colleges through that platform.
Okay, great. And I think we've got a link later on anyway in the slides that take you to that. I had a question. Do you have anywhere good examples of case studies where the construction sector have worked well with local schools and colleges, and then how they've kind of measured the impact? So, you know, you can go in, you can do that engagement, and but the so what piece. So have you got, are there any case studies anywhere? Where would we go to find those?
Our resource directory has got plenty of the construction sector. I think probably, as you can imagine, has engaged pretty well with schools and colleges. There's been examples of like real leadership around those cornerstone employer groups. So there was a piece in Birmingham with a prime contractor that led a bit around reducing plastic use and relating that to careers. So getting students to lead that project across the local area and engage with their own sustainability experts in doing that. And that's measurable in terms of looking at that reduction. We have a measure called the Future Skills Questionnaire, which schools and colleges complete, and that allows them to assess sort of the impact of different interventions. So that's done through our Compass Plus tool, which is, without getting too complicated, is where a school and colleges self-assesses against the Gatsby benchmarks. So they'll impact an activity that's taking place, and they'll be able to do the measurement on that. And I think I did reference it earlier on, but by the start of next year, we will have brought in employer standards, which will probably get a different name, but that will be that is all about showcasing what good looks like. So looking at your own interventions with schools and colleges, where there's gaps, where how you measure and how you understand, you know, what's working and what isn't.
Great, thank you. Could you as well just say, because I know when we speak with school members or school partners, sometimes there might be people within the business who are saying we're really keen, but we don't have the material to help sell the you know, how exciting the construction industry is, all of the resources. What can we use? And I think Go Construct is the kind of go-to platform. I wonder if you could just share a little bit more about, I suppose, Go Construct for those people on the call who might not be familiar.
Yeah, Go Construct is, I suppose, the one stop really for those looking to enter the construction sector. There's support there for schools and colleges in terms of direct delivery from teachers and careers leaders, but there's also support for volunteers that are looking to go into the sector. We signpost students there to look at the different breakdowns of, I think there's hundreds of different career areas within the sector that they can find information out about, but there are sort of templates in there to support engagement with schools and colleges.
Great. I think there's some videos in there as well around kind of, you know, this is the breadth of you know, careers that are available in construction. That's
it. It's the excitement and inspiration piece.
Okay, great. And just thinking about that, just for attendees to be aware that the school has a kind of a group called the Labour Group that look at all of these people issues. And one of the areas that they've highlighted that they felt the school, it would be great if the school in collaboration with other bodies could maybe help to do some more work around mapping those career pathways. The general feedback that we're getting is that work has been done on that, but that there could be a lot more to really show the breadth and the opportunities available in the sector. So that's something we're probably going to be looking at within the school going forward. So again, if anyone who's here today has case studies to share or would like to be involved in that, please do let me know. I had another question for you. Sorry, I don't think we've had any other questions come in, but I had a question as well for you around what are the kind of top tips. Sorry, two questions. Where engagement with local schools and colleges has been really successful, why has that been? What are the tips for people who want to kind of really succeed in having an impact? And yeah, what are the things where things haven't worked out well, or there's an intervention but then nothing? The kind of so what question is what we don't really know, not really has an impact. Why has that been?
Yeah, I think the code design element is really important. So when you're looking at an intervention, is using the hub collaborative sort of structure to get input from people within education to help make sure that you're meeting a need. So it's that old thing about, you know, when we talk about CSR being done to people, you don't want to be doing this to people, you want to do it in partnership. So I think that's when things work well, it's not, it might be a templated thing that's tailored, but it won't just be necessarily a straight off the shelf, that's it, we'll do it everyone and then we'll move on to the next. So there's an element of a good lead up time to the intervention to allow you to really target it at the people you're delivering to.
Okay, great. And I suppose it's that kind of, yeah, being part of a wider strategy as well, a kind of the skills strategy piece. But yeah, it links into what you've said, rather than that just let's go and do something, let's plan things properly and use the right inroads.
Yeah, really leverage that local knowledge that sits in the careers hubs.
Okay, I can't see any more questions come in, so I'm just going to share my screen again and just signpost you to some of the resources and the work that's been happening within the supply chain sustainability school. So hopefully you can all see my screen again. Bear with me. And if anyone does have any more questions, feel free to just pop those in. So within the school, we've recently launched a new people topic. So as you know, within the school, we've got various topics. We've got sustainability, which sits at the heart of the school, but we also have various topics such as fairness, inclusion and respect, which links very much to that retention and attraction piece that we've talked about. There's digital, and people is one of the new ones that we've recently launched. And the people department within the school is all about that, helping you understand and develop your workforce strategy to tackle all of these people challenges, which is actually all interlinked. So through the people department in the school, we cover the training and skills on the bottom right. We cover employment conditions. There's that piece around wages as well that again links to attraction and retention, modern slavery, well-being, human rights, right to work, and fairness, inclusion, respect. So just wanted to let you all know that those topics are now live and you can search for resources using those headings. Through the school, we created, I think it was a couple of years ago now, something called the People Matter Charter. So the People Matter Charter was created to help organisations both up and down the value chain, organisations of all sizes, to address all of these challenges together in one workforce strategy. And the charter has 8 commitments that are applicable to businesses of any size, and they map onto those topics that I just talked about a moment ago, so training and skills, right to work, and so on. So we have over 130 organisations who are committed to the People Matter Charter. Committing to the charter is completely free, and you have to commit to progressing in at least 2 of those areas, those commitments around the outside each year, and you do that by submission of case studies. So lots of case studies on the school platform as well for you to hear what others have done and how others organisations are tackling these issues. Thinking again more broadly about all of these people issues, what you can also do is an assessment of your organisation's maturity on the people, I suppose, on having a people strategy and progress, and you complete that assessment. It's completely confidential, just interesting to try and understand what good looks like. And once you've completed it, you get the results on the radar chart on the top right hand side. So, and you can benchmark yourself against others in your industry and across all school members in general. So interesting, something you may want to go away and have a look at. And if you wish to commit to the charter, there is a learning pathway that you'll find on your school company dashboard. And you complete that learning pathway and you would then commit to the charter. Okay, and then I think this is the last slide. Some of the resources that we have within the school, just to signpost you to, we've talked about many of these earlier on. So we've got the Go Construct STEM Ambassador Programme. If you're not already involved in that, and you're keen to get involved, really simple guidance there on how to go about doing that. To give you that big industry picture, I'm guessing many of you are familiar because of why you're here today, but you've got the industry skills plan for the sector. And also the construction skills network 5-year outlook as well, which is really great in terms of scene setting. And then again, examples below on the taking on apprentices, how to develop an employment and skills plan, and a template for doing that, and yes, some of the other resources that James has mentioned. So that's just a small snapshot of some of the resources that we have available. And we've had a comment from an attendee saying social value is part of business strategies. So using the national TOMS and the social value portal allows businesses to measure impacts. Okay, I don't think we've had any more questions. So I think before we go, I'd like to do one more poll just to get your input really into future webinars that we run through the school on topics like this. So Rosie, if you could just pull up the Menti question, that would be great. Yeah, what other topics relating to the skills challenge would you like the school to cover in future webinars? And whilst you're doing that, before we finish as well, I'd love you to get your feedback. So when the webinar closes, there'll be a feedback form that will pop up on your screen. So please do share that, what you liked about the session, what we could have done better, things you'd like us to focus on in the future. So please do take the time to share your feedback. Okay, so yes, what other topics relating to the skills challenge would you like us to cover? We've got webinars running pretty much every day. There's lots on the fairness, inclusion, respect side of things as well, happening all the time, which is very, very linked to this topic as well. Digital, I can assure you there's plenty coming up on digital. If you go to the events tab, if you're on the school platform, on the top right, there's a little box saying events. If you click on that, you'll be able to see all of the forthcoming sessions we've got. Apprenticeship levy gift, okay, females in construction, women, okay, lots here around gender, women in operational jobs, community learning, prison leavers. I forgot to say, actually, we've got some really good case studies. We've got a search function called case studies. You can search to find out what other organisations are doing to tackle the challenge. And there's quite a few examples of working in partnership with prisons as well. I'm trying to think some that spring to mind. There's one on HMP Foston Hall, on upskilling female custodians there, on how to deconstruct street lamps. And there's a real nice link to circular economy. There's one around working with HMP Elmley, I think, around developing a pipeline of talent. Community learning, supporting refugees, absolutely. There is a great website now, I'm not sure, there's one in London, which is that kind of matchmaking refugees with professional skills to opportunities out there in the sector. So yes, these are all great, really good to get your insight. We do have resources in the school that can help, but maybe these are areas we need to look at for future webinars. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. That's and thank you very much, James, for sharing your insights and support in today. So thank you very much. And yeah, all I have to say is please do complete the feedback form. So thanks, everyone.